romanticization of how marvelous a promiscuous sexual lifestyle is. And so this was something that is part of her worldview. As a result, she needs to have the means of avoiding pregnancy, because if you're sleeping around a lot, you can't be affording to get pregnant, you know, every time you pick up a new lover, right? And so she has this need, actually, to avoid pregnancy. And so as a result, she has these three forms of control that are important. And this is what I call Sanger's ideology of control. For Sanger, you have to have birth control for the purpose of eugenic control, and this goes international in population control, which I can't really talk about much, but it's really an accepted historic fact that the eugenics movement became the population control movement around the 1930s and 40s. They were the same people and the same ideas. So that's Sanger's worldview. That's Planned Parenthood in the past. Let's briefly look at what Planned Parenthood today does to these ideas, how they promote these ideas. So there's Planned Parenthood today, right? Again, you know, happy, professional, educated-looking woman, you know, standing up for her rights. What's the lifestyle that Planned Parenthood promotes? Here we get, this is just, I mean, it's kind of chosen in random, one of Planned Parenthood's fundraisers. I kid you not, you had the opportunity to win a pole dancing contest. Have you noticed that Planned Parenthood fundraisers are like different than like this was in Manhattan a couple years ago or so. They are definitely still committed to that Margaret Sanger free love promiscuous lifestyle. But now it has considerably more consequences, because it's one thing if Margaret Sanger wants to degrade herself and make herself deeply unhappy, as she did. And that's sad enough. But it's another thing when Margaret Sanger's lifestyle is now being imported and promoted to a whole other generation. Planned Parenthood has presented themselves as the experts on sex. And that is how they go out into communities, they get into schools, you know, they know all about sex. So that's their claim. Okay, so the kind of thing that they say is, you know, that they provide medically accurate and age-appropriate sexuality education for youth. And it sounds so sanitized when you say it that way. It's like, oh, well, who could be against that? You know, who could be against science? But what we know is that this is a Trojan horse, my one condom joke. All right, this is a Trojan horse. I might not actually be my one condom joke. To get into communities, to get into schools, because again, people don't like things like teen pregnancy, and they often have a mandate from the state to have some kind of sex ed program in place, and so you know, school districts welcome Planned Parenthood into the schools. Planned Parenthood presents something that they call abstinence-first education, which I call abstinence is talked about first, and then everything else talked about very shortly after. But it sounds good because people are like, okay, abstinence first, okay, that sounds like they think it's important. But it's important to recognize that these are all this is all designed to hide kind of the serious content that they are presenting. It's also important to know what International Planned Parenthood Federation does, which Sanger founded and is out there promoting population control, very active in the UN. It was founded in 1952. It was deeply connected to the English Eugenics Society. It basically had its offices right next door. The same people ran both organizations. I talk about this in my book in a lot more detail. And this is just too funny, so I just have to talk about this. There was a UN event in 2010 that IPPF, as an NGO, participated in. And somebody got up and asked the reasonable question, when Planned Parenthood is in the third world, does it promote abstinence as, you know, one of the means of addressing things like sexually transmitted infections and HIV? And the response was a little mystifying. Abstinence is not 100% effective for preventing pregnancy. These are the sex experts, so what do I know? This sounds a little odd to me. So we would only recommend abstinence with condoms, which leads me to believe that they really don't understand what abstinence is to begin with. But this is epitomizes the attitude, I think, when you try to get Planned Parenthood to say the word abstinence and address it with any seriousness. As part of this UN meeting, they unfortunately had something sponsored with the Girl Scouts, and so there's a lot online if you want to investigate some of the sad things that the Girl Scouts have been involved with Planned Parenthood in recent decades.